Uh, Good evening, calling to order the council meeting of Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Please call the roll.
Mr. Knoll? Ms. Atra? Ms. Weltman?
Here.
Ms. Oden? Here. Mr. Lemay? Mr. Gentili?
Here.
Dr. Wong?
Here.
Good evening, everyone. Good morning, audience. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first agenda item this evening is ordinance 2025-06. This is our salt contract. Mr. Advent, would you please take us through this?
Yeah, this is the, thank you, Mayor, this is an ordinance for us to participate in the state purchase for wet rock salt. Used throughout the year. We have to go through this once a year to participate in the state. We are going to get 3,200 tons.
Yep.
And, well, it's up from this past year, but we kind of due to the severity of it.
Remember, the process for this is you give ODOT your expected needs, and then you have between 90 and 110% of that as the window. And then once they have the numbers that they can go out to bid with, you come back and find out what the actual price will be.
And that usually ends up around July is when we find out that what the price is going to be. So
Yes, sir. How is our, I know winter's not over and surprise, surprise, you're going to still be dropping salt perhaps, but how are we doing right now?
we have roughly 2,000 tons in the shed. And we exceeded our, we went to 10% over this year as opposed to most years we go to 10% under. But due to the severity of the winter, called for more salt. So, but we were pretty good. And we have plenty now for even the startup of next season.
Okay.
And this process is the same normal one that we do all the
Yeah,
time.
we're pretty good.
And this is the best price we can get for
This
through
is the-
ODOT, right?
this is
The state
purchase,
price,
but this is
and
the
that's
best
it.
stream yet. There are other people out there trying to do better, but there was problems with those this year.
We need salt.
All right. We need salt. I'd entertain a motion to suspend so we could get on with this one.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Mr. Knoll?
yes.
Ms. Weltman?
Yes.
Ms. Oden? Yes. Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
And a motion for the adoption.
So moved,
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Knoll?
yes.
Ms. Weltman?
Yes.
Ms. Oden? Yes. Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we come on a motion to repair our service department roof. Turn again to you, Mr. Advent. Why don't you tell us about that?
This section of roofing was passed over when we did the remodel. It was in good shape then, but as that was a few years ago, roughly 5, I believe. We had an inspection done last April. It started having some seams cracking in the old roofing, and a lot of shingles got blown off due to some of the storms, and the shingles are deteriorating past their useful life. So we had our contractor that maintains this building, service and fire, inspect all the roofs last year. Cars needed for most work. It came in at $37,500, and there were 2 bids. The other one was $38,850. They both have to, these bid, or the 2 companies that bid actually have to come through Garland Roofing as our roofing contractor to maintain our warranties that are on our roof currently.
How old is that section that's being replaced?
25 plus years.
Do we have like a roof maintenance schedule? Do we track it? Like,
Yeah, every year that they come out and they check out, like now all the roofs have been done. Fire last year, we had just had to do some patching, and it was roughly about $2,000 we did last year. So
I mean, do we track like how old they are, how we're doing with that,
Yeah.
somewhere the guns, okay. Do we know what roofs are coming or looking, starting?
Well, I would think that if this building gets remodeled in any way, it will take a serious look at
Sure.
the roof here.
Sure.
You know.
But if save nothing happened for a few years, do we know what like the status of this and the other? Or-
This year, when you have 5 years, fire is probably at least 10 years out.
Okay. I'm
Service
just
is-
curious.
Service is 20 years,
Okay,
and
because,
this
yeah,
will coincide with that.
gotcha. Okay, great, thanks.
I just have a question. So I'm glad that we got that information today about the service department. Or is it the service department roof, right? The garage roof?
Yeah.
Okay, because it just says replacement of the service department maintenance garage building.
Well, the maintenance for that is this part over here, since there's 3 sections.
Right. The roof.
It says.
But it just says replacement of. It doesn't say
Oh.
replacement of the roof. Technical little error. But anyway, I had emailed Sheila on Friday to get more information because I kind of wanted to do our due diligence and duty because we're supposed to look into the cost of things. And that's why we were elected by the residents to, do due diligence, have transparency. So I was just wondering how old it was, what were the other estimates, which companies gave us an estimate. And then I followed up again today because I hadn't heard. And Mayor let me know that the inspection was done in April 2024. That was last year.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, one, why are we just hearing about it now? I know it has to be replaced. Two, have we gotten information of can certain things be repaired now and then get it fully replaced, maybe down the line because we just did the service department redo 5 years ago. So why at that time was it not needing to be replaced? Because it's only a few years after that. And, 3, it's the same people that maintain the roof. So is it right? I mean, why are they also the people that are replacing it? Shouldn't we kind of look I know you got 3 estimates, but I didn't actually see those other estimates. And
Okay, so first off, the inspection was done last April, and we had deteriorating areas. We didn't have active leaks at that time, but we did have deterioration and wind blown. But due to that, we had yet to budget to do this. I asked them if they thought that it would last until the next year, and they indicated that it should. The most would be an area which possibly would start to leak, so I wanted to get it so we could budget the money as opposed to, looking at something that we didn't have money set aside for. 2, you were asking about the person that did the inspection. They are the manufacturers of the products that go on the roof, the inspecting company. So the contractors that they use are certified through them. So that's where these 2 contractors came from. It did not come from Joe's Roofing that you'll see doing a house. This is industrial roofing. It's a rolled roofing with a tar coat over top of it. So these are the people that make that stuff. They're a Cleveland company. So that's why we chose them, and they are the ones that warranty our roof. So for the materials breakdown. So they're pretty much the standard for rolled roofing around Missouri.
And that's the only roofing that's done on municipal buildings, or are the other ones that might stand, be more long lasting, or is it just what we use?
It's the
Or?
type of roof that dictates the type of roofing materials you put on it. So these are flat roofs.
Okay.
They're rolled roofs. They're not pitched like a house.
Okay.
And what was 3?
Godfrey was maintaining it.
maintaining it. That, well, they're the warranty, they maintain the warranty on our roof, so that's why we go through them. We continue to use them because they're currently warranting our roof. The service department, as I said, wasn't, 5 years ago when we did the service department, we felt that we could get away for a few years because the roof was in good enough shape, it wasn't actively leaking.
So you're saying that we have to use this company because that's the only roof that we use, and we have to go through them because they're the only ones that make this roof and warranty the roof? So we're stuck with the same,
Then I wouldn't call it stuff.
or we are,
That's-
so we don't really research different things. This is like the roof that we
If
have.
you want to
in the
maintain the
roof.
warranty you already have, which is.
Okay,
if
so
they're still
because it's a
warranting
warranty.
They're still warranting a 5-year-old roof. So that helps us out. And they come out without charge to inspect the roofs. And more often than not, they leave, they might caulk a joint or something.
But this roof is
No
25
charge.
years old,
This roof is 25 plus years old.
so there's no warranty left on it.
No,
So you could potentially go out and put a different type of roof on. No,
We're still gonna
you
put a
still
roll
have to
roofing
put-
on
And there's only one company that manufactures a rolled roof.
there. I'm sure there's multiple ones, but they're a Cleveland-based company that's somebody chose years ago to do.
But do we know they're the best price for a rolled roof?
They're the one that have given us the warranty. So, yes,
So we don't have warranty of the roof through, like, you know, how our homeowners insurance warranties the roof, like you don't have separate umbrella insurance warranty stuff. No, it has to be the person who manufactures it gives you, okay. I don't know how this all works. It's all news to me.
Well, and that's fine. I understand it is new to you. And that's
Yeah.
why we rely on someone like Mr. Advent, who's been
Yeah.
doing it for,
Of course, no,
35 years or
he does
whatever,
it great.
to
But it'd
guide
just
us
be
as
nice-
to replacement and
Because
repair
it
of a
just
roof.
feels like over and over again, we don't get information the day of. It'd be nice to have it before the meeting so we can kind of process it and understand it and then be transparent with the residents because this is taxpayer money. And it doesn't seem like a lot because it's 37,500, but still it's important to go through the process and understand why we're using the same people that maintain the roof to replace it because pretty much we have no other choice because they warranty it. But I mean, it's good to have that conversation and have the public know why
Okay,
we're
and
doing
you
this.
asked your questions. Do you have any more questions that are unanswered by Mr. Advent?
No, he answered them very nicely.
Okay, well then, good. We've had that transparent
And
public
I do
conversation.
apologize not getting back to you quicker. I did see that and that's, error on my part.
And I mean, I do, not specific to this necessarily, but like in general, especially if there was a bigger project, it would be nice to get information ahead because then we can digest it. I mean, this is more straightforward, but I still appreciate, and I like hearing the questions in the meeting because I think we all learn. But, but it would be great to get on other projects, I've said it prior to this, and it doesn't have to be a service department project at all. If it's anything that it's good to get information prior to the meeting, I know that's not always our practice, but it would be a nice practice to
If I remember
consider.
correctly, I'm sorry.
No.
During the budget, when we added the $50,000 towards this, I believe I said that there was roof replacement needed. That's why the $50,000 was put into the budget.
Yeah,
And it came in at 37.5, so.
yeah, and I think that's, it's hard because we have so much in that meeting.
Yes.
We're,
I get it.
so we don't always pay attention
I
to the
wasn't at
roof.
the meeting either.
Jim, I think, you're living with this every day, so it's at the top of your mind.
Exactly.
We're hearing about it again,
Yeah.
3-4 months after, so it would be helpful to have, a little couple paragraphs in writing explaining what you just did ahead of time, so we would be aware of what's going on and able to ask better questions if there are better questions to be asked. That's all I think we're asking for.
Yeah,
Again, you live with it every day, so it's second nature to you. It's not to us because that's probably the first time in 14 years, or one of the first times in 14 years I've been asked to spend money on a roof, I think.
Well, like as Ms. Weltman pointed out, I think it's good, and I agree with you. It's good to have this conversation in a public session. And if all this information was given to council before the session, we may not have had this public conversation about it because you already known about it. So I think this is, and I agree with Ms. Weltman, this is a good forum to have the conversation when and all of our directors come before council during these meetings
But I think it's
in
good
order
to
to
have
answer
the
questions.
information
And I'm
beforehand.
glad you could have the dialogue.
Nothing on Jim. Jim does a great job, but Dawn sends us all those estimates and then we can review them. Those are really nice. I know it doesn't have to go into that much detail, but
Okay.
just having like the numbers and to look at it and to make sure that there's public record that there was other estimates. It's good practice to have.
And one caveat, just to about ask the questions. I think it's great to ask the questions ahead and study it ahead. And then if you have some questions that you think you want to share with council, like I would say to Jim, hey, I might ask this in public again, just so everyone could hear the answer and the community can hear the answer, just because then it's kind of making a clear record and everyone learns. But
Because otherwise, why is council even here to, we have to kind of.
it's good. It's good to ask it in public because you ask an interesting question, or Tony, or any of us, and then I learned from the question you asked that I didn't think to ask.
Okay, with all that in mind, would anyone like to make a motion to award the contract for this $37,500 roof?
Sure.
repair?
Can we put a thing in there that says replacement of the roof?
Oh,
Yes, gonna
Okay.
say replacement of service department maintenance.
yeah, not the whole building, just
Right,
the
not the
roof.
whole building.
Okay,
It's just
would someone like to make the motion?
Oh, yeah, I did. So moved.
Second,
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Knoll,
yes.
Ms. Weltman.
Yes.
Ms. Bowden. Yes. Mr. Lemon, or Mr. Gentili,
Yes.
Dr. Lund.
Yes.
All right, great, thank you. We move on to the committees. I believe we had a planning commission meeting, Ms. Waltman?
We did. We had a planning commission. We had 2 items come up. I guess I'll do them in the order that we addressed them. One was regarding a fence at the Gross Schechter Day School. It was a variance adding an additional foot. It's on the back of the property abutting 271. It also addressed, the fencing where it was, the height, and then there was another much smaller fence protecting a playground that was kind of internal. They were all internal to the grounds. That was really internal to their grounds. They were all basically safety issues, pretty straightforward, and that variance was those variances were granted. We also had another one that was for a garage. It was about a 25% increase in the size of the garage. And for various reasons, basically that it wasn't a practical difficulty, it was not granted.
Thank you, Ms. Waltman. One thing that I'll bring up to council, I wish we were all here so that everyone could hear it. This was brought up, this issue that I'm addressing here was brought up by Mr. Smerigan and I several years ago, that when we have these garage variance requests, all of our garages, in case council is not aware, are limited to 1,000 square feet. That is regardless of the size of the property or the home that the garage is being attached to or expanded from. And it's my feeling that it ought to be looked at. It's always been for many years my feeling. Sometimes we have a 2,500 square foot house, let's say, that maximum can be 1,000 square feet. And an accessory building, can always be added on, and take up, provide more storage space, I imagine. Or you can have a 5,500 square feet or a 6,000 square foot house, and it is limited to the same maximum size garage as a much smaller house, half its size. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not always going to be appropriate to have a very large garage just because it's a big house, but that's something the ABR can also deal with proportionality of the garage to the house. But to just arbitrarily limit any garage for a very large house to the same dimensions as a smaller house doesn't seem to really have a lot of logic driving it. And as it's an older section of the ordinances perhaps that have not kept pace with the larger houses that we see now. And it was Mr. Smerigan's advice several years ago that we should look to having him suggest some scalability as to the size of the house and the maximum size of a garage space. Again, it would always be subject to the, examination of the ABR as to, does this aesthetically meet the requirements of the lot, of the house itself? But it's something worthwhile, I think, for council to consider taking up in the future, if you would like Mr. Smerigan to take a look at this subject. Yes, Mr. Johnson.
I agree with what Mr. Smerigan's recommendation is, coming from a municipality that had a lot of bigger houses and a lot of bigger garages. That was pretty standard. So I think that proportionality should be looked at, and what do you need?
You don't need, I didn't want to send Mr. Smerigan on an adventure to come up with a formula or some, rationale as to it without knowing that the council was at least interested in having him embark on
I
it.
do think that, oh, go ahead, yeah, sorry.
Do we know why it was originally
I'm sorry, say it
Do
again?
we know why originally it was 1,000?
It's probably had to do with smaller houses at the time. It was considered a pretty big garage
Uh-huh.
for a smaller house.
And that,
Real big garage for a
Like-
smaller house.
if you Google, it can accommodate a 3-car garage or a 2-car garage with storage space.
I
Right.
don't profess the expertise to,
Yeah,
Do
it's a
Three-car
there are plenty of
garage.
3-car garages that are obviously under not variance garages. So I would say
25 by
that
40.
that's,
Yeah.
what's that?
25 by 40,000.
I would say that's accurate. And the other challenge we would have to undertake is, and I'm not necessarily opposed to it, is I think in addition to the size of the house, you would have to take into consideration the lot size.
Mhm.
Because, for example, in some other communities, you might have a 5-acre
Mhm.
minimum, and then the larger garage, doesn't have quite the same impact as it would obviously on a 1-acre, 1.5-acre lot. And the other, setbacks, things like that. And finally, obviously there would have to be a top number, I think. There would always be some top number. You couldn't basically set a series of garage bays all around your house. But, we might also want to take into consideration if you're having an expanded garage, if we just determine we want to do that ordinance, then what do we do with outbuildings? Because you don't want Pepper Pike to become a city of huge garages and giant outbuildings, especially on 1.5-acre, 2-acre lot. So it's something that's to be really done thoughtfully, I think, is what I'm trying to say. You really have to think about what we would want in our community and what would look best with the aesthetics, what would work for Pepper Pike and not what would work for either Beechwood or on one side or Honey Valley on the other side. We have to really think through the details, which I
Right.
think is
I
fair.
think when you bring up setbacks, that's important too, because 1 acre can be square and it could be a bowling alley.
Mhm.
So you really need to understand each lot. So-
And you also don't want to pigeonhole yourself in saying, well, you can have this bigger garage, but now all of a sudden, we're up against having, to do that, you would need to be a front-facing
Front-facing,
garage.
yeah.
So now, all of a sudden, people will show up and say, well, I'm allowed to have a bigger garage, but it needs to be front-facing. So you start to have, those conflicts. We would just have to work it through. And, George could give us his recommendation, but it might not be what council thinks is best for the community. And I would just say approach it cautiously because there's unintended consequences when you make one choice.
I think it makes a lot of sense to ask him to
Oh,
work up some.
yeah,
Okay.
and I think,
Proposal?
but but with the caveat that we want it to be right sized or appropriate for our community, not for a community where they have bigger lots or where front-facing garages are the norm or things like that. Because, you know, to Tony's point, the lot sizes could affect, the lot size or the shape could affect what we can.
Sure, yeah, but I mean, he's aware of all these constraints, right?
Yeah, I think-
Yeah,
He's an expert.
yeah. We just, you know, we want to make sure that, you know, you give him guidance because, you know, he,
I think it's worth the discussion though.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right.
So I'm glad we brought it up. So is everybody in agreement that we should have him?
Yeah. I think
Go
that's a
ahead.
great
Maybe
idea.
he could present it next meeting.
I will tell Mr. Smirgan to give thought and to come up with a suggestion for the council to consider. Thank you very much. I know this month we've not had are there any other committees here among these councilmen to report? No. All right. We will then move on to our department heads. Anything to report, department heads?
Service Department's recycling video is out. People have seen it. They've been calling about it. Some even found something that they still had a question on. I found it interesting how they could, but they're like, is this recyclable? People are pretty sure.
Well, it's an
But thank you to Scott Newell for doing a fine job with it. And he edited me out as much as he could.
Did you guys?
excellent job, Mr. Newell.
No.
Really, this city is very fortunate to have a volunteer in-house production team of the quality that Mr. Newell offers to us. It's really a very unusual circumstance. And on behalf of the city, I'm very grateful to you for the work that you do on that. If you haven't, anyone in the audience or on council not reviewed the production values, it's really great. And we're also fortunate that a member of the Cuyahoga County team actually is a resident of Pepper Pike. Remind me of the name.
Three, but the one that came and did the video with us, her name is Karen Miller.
Karen Miller. I apologize to Ms. Miller that her name slipped past.
Yeah,
but yes.
She's the director of public education.
Yeah.
and recycling.
She
We-
sometimes does the table, like at the ice cream
Yeah,
social,
she
right?
does,
Yeah,
yeah.
she knows,
Yeah,
Every-
she knows it all.
she knows it all.
And,
Scott did a good job getting me away.
It was really helpful, instead of just reading the list of recyclables, to actually see it demonstrated. I learned some things just watching that film going, oh, that's good.
The description isn't always good when you just read it.
Yeah, it's more illustrative to actually see what this container or whatever can look like. So thank you very much.
You guys
for
met
doing-
though to the committee. No, you met?
I'm sorry?
Did they meet?
I'm
They
sorry, I
met.
can't hear you. What?
Their committee met. Didn't they meet? Didn't they meet?
No.
No?
we didn't.
Okay.
What
Communication, man.
communication?
Yeah.
We didn't meet.
Oh, you didn't meet?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought, okay, just the video was just released separately.
Yes.
The video is just something I did by myself.
Oh, by
so,
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, this is all Scott's efforts.
But I also want to thank Jim and Karen. They did a great job. And your camera and your production is only as good as the talent. And they were very good. It was very easy to do. So I have seen that it's had quite a few views. I looked at it, a lot of people are looking at it. So that's
Good.
great.
Good. We published it on, the website, our social media, so I'm glad it's getting a response. Good. Scott, also, thanks to Scott for his production efforts for the filming and posting, working with our internal team of the town halls over the last couple of weeks. That's all Scott's efforts also. And it's more than is just setting up a camera. He spends, some hours, obviously, editing this. He's got a 2-camera shot that he has to edit together. It's really, a lot of effort, and that we're very grateful to Mr. Newell that he does. So thank you.
Well, I also just want to say that it's important that if you were not able to attend that meeting, it's important that you be able to see what everybody said and that you don't have to wonder what they said, because there it is. It's there. And I will say too, I know a couple of people said, well, you're editing this. I don't edit any content whatsoever. There were a couple of gaps in there that I would love to have edited out, but I think I vowed that I will not touch the material. The only thing I edit essentially are the angles, just so you can see who's talking. And in certain areas where the audio isn't the greatest in there, I try to make everything audible. But that's the only editing I do. It's not editing by the way of cutting stuff out or leaving stuff in. It's just a matter of presentation editing.
No, it makes for, I understand exactly what you said, and it makes though for a much more dynamic viewing, getting to, shift from the speaker to the panel back and forth. It makes for a much more, enjoyable thing to watch. So
So I'd love to have about 8 cameras, but it probably would take longer than the meeting. So.
All right.
A quick question about the recycling video. Where is it exactly on the website? I can't find it. I see the recycling update on the front page. When I click on it, I see the
That's where
PDF.
it's all linked together, I think.
I don't see it.
There's a
It's
link
not on
right
the-
there.
I see the link. It
And
goes
that takes you to the
link.
video.
There's no video on it. On the Pepper Pike website, on the front page under news and announcements, there's a recycling update.
You might have to open the service department.
Click that, and the recycling update has no video in it. It just has a description PDF in 2 places in the Cuyahoga website. So it might be good to put it
There
there.
it is.
Just scroll down to the bottom of the webpage.
A little further. And there's a video.
The first page.
Yeah, like this is at the bottom
You
of
gotta
the
go deep below all the.
recycling
Gotta keep
update.
going.
Just scroll to the bottom.
On the bottom.
Okay, I don't see it yet, but okay. But if we could maybe find it, put it somewhere, because this is the bottom of my page and it's not on there.
I don't see it either, actually.
Oh, no, click on the front page, click on recycling update.
But it's
Yeah,
not, I don't think
did.
it's in there.
And then it's at the bottom of that.
It is?
Yep, it is.
Oh, you don't notice it necessarily because it's like, it's,
What browser are you using?
it looks like an AI.
Safari?
I don't know, I'm in Chrome. I don't know if that's a difference.
I'll mention to Ms.
I
Kovashmar,
think
maybe
it's-
she can make
it's
it
this, right?
something.
It's that,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that.
Okay, it's not showing up
Yeah,
on
it's
my
pretty
browser.
big.
It's weird.
pretty big.
Okay, sorry about that. Here's my browser.
You're black.
Now it's
Okay.
Chrome. You must use Chrome. You cannot use Safari.
I'm using Safari.
I'm using.
Really? Okay, maybe my Safari's old
Update your
then.
Safari.
I
Kathy.
don't- okay.
Yeah, what version is yours?
That's so old school, Kathy, using Safari.
16.1.
And I'm on 18, so
Oh,
maybe that
okay.
makes a difference.
All right. Are there any other reports from department heads?
Kathy's very excited.
Mr. Shi?
A little bit of good news, Cleveland Water, the suburban water main renewal program, did get funding for Trillium Trail, which is a street in the Brookwood Northwood subdivision area that is a frequent flyer in terms of water main breaks. So very excited to get that chunk done. It'll be hopefully something that we can design this year and bid out either this year or early next year.
I know the residents there will be very grateful because they have suffered an inordinate amount of water breaks in that street.
It's a problem for Cleveland to come out and maintain it. It is also sometimes could be an issue for the whole neighborhood if you have a significant break where they're really losing a lot of water pressure.
Yeah.
So getting it taken care of.
And I will say Cleveland Water has been just outstanding responding to the breaks on that street. They have been, quite a few it seems, but they have always been very prompt in getting out and trying to repair it.
Sorry, what is this fixing? This is
Trillium Trail, it's a water main.
replacing the water
It's a
main?
Complete replacement, yeah. It's an
Thanks.
older main, it has a pretty high break frequency and they have a waiting program that we've applied for. We actually applied for another street that didn't score as well.
Okay.
And didn't make the cut, but this one we cut.
Thanks.
So Don, I know this will be great and that, I guess, section will be good. I know you've mentioned before that when you repair a section, sometimes the section near it ends up being vulnerable. Do you anticipate that being a problem?
In this particular case, it's a good question. Not a concern because almost that entire subdivision got a new water line just before I became the engineer.
Okay.
Part of the reason why the old engineer got it let go. They had so many problems with the contract. So anyway, that was 1995-ish.
Okay.
So it's fairly new. I think at the time, this one section was left off because that particular street wasn't as old as the rest of the subdivision. And now, some 30 years later, it's,
So I know,
So
so no
what is old
promises,
for a
but
water line?
sounds-
You said 30, it's 30 years.
well, it's 30 years older than it was. So when the rest of the water line got replaced, that
There we go.
subdivision went in, I'm gonna say, around
Mid-fifties.
1950. And at the time, the technology as far as water lines go was really exciting stuff.
So,
It was an older type of ductile iron pipe.
so the rest of the subdivision is 30 years, 30
Is
years
now
old.
30 years old,
And that part is
70.
70. Oh, okay,
plus.
okay.
So we've got another 40
The question
years.
still remains, what is old for?
I think
a water
when
main?
when you're 50, you absolutely should get at least 50 years out of it. And you're hoping to get closer to 100 out of it.
That's a pretty
Wow.
nice range.
Don, what is the material that's used in the newer ones?
It's ductile iron, but the newer stuff is cement lined, and some of it is not cement lined and it weathers and ages a little differently. So the cement line stuff is the good stuff.
Thank you.
And the grant,
Sometimes if you have an older line, you can actually line it with,
After the fact?
Yeah,
make an extended,
it can be relined sometimes.
and the grant covers the whole cost
It covers,
or most of
yes,
it?
it really covers, likelihood the entire cost,
Mhm.
and they actually put a small portion of it to restoring the pavement that gets damaged because of the work. So
Nice.
our end of it is that we'll come in and resurface the street when it's done. And I did want to mention, we're in another cycle from Regional Sewer District about applying for additional MCIP funds. We're working with Board of Health to determine the next possible area. I'm gonna push out a map to council that just kind of shows all of the projects that we've done so far, the ones that are on the books that we haven't built yet, and maybe even next meeting, we talk a little bit about, giving authorization for me to do the plans for Belgrave and the South Woodland project. We've gotten funding for them. We haven't queued up the design work yet, but we can have that conversation at our next meeting.
we'll have that on the next agenda, Don.
I love the idea of having a visual so we can see what's coming
Yeah,
and what
I
we've
actually
done.
have a map on my screen right now. If you want to see it, I can put it on the TV, or I could just print it out and send it to council.
Either way, I like this water stuff. It's not all that interesting, but for some
Yes.
reason I think it's interesting.
Right, I'll print these out and I'll give them to Sheila and the
Okay.
council, just as a draft, and if you have questions, or if we can make it product better before we push it out to all of the council and residents and stuff.
Okay. Very good. Yes, Chief.
Chief Fraser and I had a productive meeting with the Civil Service Commission yesterday, and on the police end of it, the testing process for the 2 additional officers was approved, so we'll start advertising and opening the test up this month.
Great. And our 2 newest police officers have completed their schooling, and they are joining us now for their ride-arounds with our officers.
Field training program, yeah, that's right.
All right.
Just started up.
So thank you, Chief. And that brings us to me, and I don't really have too much to comment on tonight. I'll turn over if council does or does not, and otherwise we'll turn to any audience comments. Yeah, Tommy.
I'd hoped to try to respond to some of the questions that were brought up at the, and comments that were brought up at the town hall meetings. But I was advised by the law director that it wouldn't be appropriate to do so in this meeting. So instead, I would invite anybody who wants to have that information to contact me
Okay,
offline.
all right. Anyone else from council?
Yeah, I would just share in what Mr. Gentili said. I think there is a lot of information that could be shared. I found it an interesting challenge and interesting situation we find ourselves in with guidance that has varied over the past few years as to what we could say publicly, the application of that guidance in various situations. But I do think there's a lot of information that people should know to make an informed decision. I think that's important. I think that's our duty on council. Unfortunately, I don't think we've been able to effectively do that, and frustrates and upsets me, but I would encourage anybody to reach out to anybody on council to get more information.
All right, thank you.
I'm confused. So if people want to respond to in the town hall, we can't because that's considered, like, I don't know. You can't advocate in town hall. But I thought Steve had said originally that in council meetings, council can speak their mind or whatever. they
That was my
want.
understanding too.
So
Anything
I
goes
don't
in council
understand
meetings.
why council can't speak now on questions or statements that were said in the town hall, because we couldn't speak at the town hall really that much, but you can speak at the town hall. You just can't say either way. You just say facts. So then why can't Tony respond to anything now, Steve?
The problem is, again, you have an issue on the ballot. The purpose of the council meeting is to conduct the council's business. The council has already acted on the charter business. And so in order to keep order on these things, it would be legitimate to say, we're not going to talk about the campaign
No,
issues that are
not talk about
going
the
on.
campaign issues, but respond to questions from the town halls and just say the facts. We can't say that.
Well, I also thought I had heard that we could talk about it,
Yeah.
but then I was,
I thought we could talk about it in council meetings. No?
Anything in council meeting is
Protected.
basically protected speech, right?
It is, but you can't get in trouble for it. What the trouble comes when you have argument and debate on a subject matter that council isn't going to be acting on. You've already put the issue on the ballot. So further conversation by council on that issue is not city business at this time.
well, we've already been told that just saying facts is advocacy, which I think is an overbroad reading, but that's what we've been told.
Well, this is one of the reasons that I had hoped we'd have the town hall meetings prior to voting on what was going on the ballot.
But to be fair, Scott, we did not have the town hall meetings before we put the walkability on the ballot. We weren't given guidance as to advocacy
Right.
piece.
I understand, but that's what about ism?
Well, no, it's not whataboutism. It's fact. It's an assumption. There's an assumption that when we could put out facts-based information after it was put on the ballot and I'm not pushing back necessarily on you, I'm pushing back on the generalized concept. We were allowed to put out FAQ and speak at the walkability town halls after it had been on the ballot. Information was put out to the community after the fire levy was put on the ballot. And it's inconsistent guidance is my point. And I understand maybe that would have been good. I don't know, but that still doesn't change the issue about guidance, about speech. And I think that's what's troubling me. And, and facts being advocacy is another thing that kind of, to me personally, is troubling. So, I don't know what we can do about it. I think limiting information is bad for everybody. I think when someone wants to limit the information that people in your community, in your state, in your country get, you have to question why people want so badly to limit the information that people get.
Well,
That's
it's one
my
that-
personal view. When you live in a place where access to information is limited, that calls the question. Whether the structure provides it or not, and whether the interpretation of the structure can, be used to limit it or not, whether, is a different question.
Let me suggest maybe a more practical thing that we're dealing with here. And I understand Tony wants to address some things. Who would you be addressing to? We're in a limited audience here. We've got, some folks in our audience who I suspect are, already fairly aware of a lot of points and are
Will the report?
support of you. There's another group. No one in this room basically has not already formed an opinion. I would hazard a guess regarding this. Just one second. We have 5 or 6 people online. I just don't know that this is the most efficient communication.
But it's recorded. So it's recorded, so it can be viewed.
Oh, well, that's true.
And I do agree that it would have been better to push out something in the newsletter and also put it on the website a month or 2 ago. I think that would have been more effective, but we weren't able to do that either.
Well, that's not true, because 2 weeks ago, that is not true, Ms. Waltman.
It was,
Because, no, hold on, let me finish now, please. Because Mr. LeMay had offered a piece that the law director had deemed to be too much of an advocacy piece to be published by the city after the matter was already on the ballot. A revised version of that the law director had approved was given to Mr. LeMay that could be published, so it could have been published. Mr. LeMay then returned to me an edited version of that and said, would this be acceptable to go on the ballot? And he was informed, yes, that would be able to go on the ballot.
Not ballot.
And then Mr. LeMay
Website.
rejected his own piece and said, I want to go back to the original piece that had already been advised couldn't go on the ballot, couldn't be
with all
published
due
by the city.
respect, a
No, let me
document
finish.
devoid
Let
of
me
fact
finish, please. Please,
is misrepresentation.
that's not a misrepresentation. That is, Mr. LeMay offered me something that he was told could go on. And then he decided he didn't like that. And he wanted to return to a discussion of the original piece that he'd already been advised by the law director that that wasn't a suitable document to be published by the city after the matter was already on the ballot. Those are facts. That's what occurred.
After
I think-
two- after
So
2
something
months,
could have gone on the ballot,
something that
on
contained-
the website.
Something that contained no information after 2 months of dragging it out and cutting it up, it's pulling out every fact, every quote from the report. It's fine. It's
All right,
over.
that last thing was not something that
It was devoid of
the
fact.
administration pulled anything out of. That was Mr. LeMay's
You did a
edit
red
of the
line of it.
document.
I
You-
think
you
that
redlined
without
it.
Mr. LeMay here,
Well, I can't help it that Mr. LeMay has chosen not to be at this meeting. I was disappointed that he wasn't at the town hall on Saturday. I was disappointed that several members of this council weren't at the town hall.
I
We
think-
can't stop everything when council members decide not to
Okay, you
attend our
can't-
scheduled hearings.
It's wise not to judge why people aren't here. Everyone's, your concern is noted, why people aren't here.
All right. Is there anything more that council wishes to discuss this evening? If not, we'll turn to the
I'm
audience.
sorry, Mayor.
Yes.
May I make a comment? Unrelated to town halls, unrelated to.
That'd be very
the
nice.
charter
I
review.
like that.
So
Go for it.
I'm reviewing, on our desks tonight, we got the Shaker Heights Municipal Court Annual Report from 2024 by the Honorable Judge Ann Walton Keller. And I'm flipping through it. And one thing caught my eye, and this is that we get fees collected, fines that are collected are dispersed to the communities that are part of this court. So last year, Pepper Pike got back $30,954. And I'm thinking to myself, Pepper Pike doesn't need $30,954 dispersed, right? So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong and there's something here I'm missing. I'm pairing this with the knowledge that we have our Pepper Pike food drive for the Cleveland Food Bank. Is that ongoing or is that wrapped up?
No, that is still ongoing.
And compare that with the knowledge that there is, an incredibly deep need right now as, lots of federal funding has been cut. And I'm wondering if council might be interested in taking an annual vote to pass the fees that the fines collected that are passed on to us, pass that right on through to the Cleveland Food Bank. Because I'm thinking, does our city need the $30,000? And I'm looking at the past, few years reported in the report. The numbers seem pretty stable. And it could be an annual thing where, something changes and we're like, no, you know what? That's a really important source of revenue for the city right now. And we don't think that that's a good decision.
Where does it go now?
Well,
It goes into.
Yeah, so that's my question is where is it?
and I think it's first of all, let me say, I totally applaud your initiative to have the city make real contributions to support the efforts of the Cleveland Food Bank. It's incredibly important. And I think a city, as you point out, as well off as Pepper Pike is,
Yeah.
should
And just,
be making that.
to put a
for-
finer point on that, that's, less than 1% of the cash we have on hand. And I know, a lot of that cash is allocated, but,
Yeah, and money's fungible.
mhm.
The money that we receive in invoices, and I'll be happy to report back to council regarding it. A lot of that money that you've described is used to pay invoices that we receive from the court, I believe. I don't know, I'd have to go into, get it reported as to
Okay.
how much it is,
So-
but there is
So
some portion.
it says the required disbursement, so they're distributing money to us, and then we're turning around and paying it back to them?
Yeah,
It
some of it,
crosses, it
yes.
crosses.
some of it.
Okay.
So, but to your point,
There
to
are
your
court
point,
fees.
Yeah,
to your,
It doesn't make sense, but it,
And
Right,
this is
well,
a matter of a reading.
these are
Different
Yeah,
fines.
correct me if
Court-
I'm wrong. Did we not, as a city, make a donation last year in the neighborhood of
10,000.
a few years ago, we made a 10,000. We've tried to make a contribution from after expenses. I don't want to call it profit, but money left, I guess it is, money left after the expenses that the Taste of Pepper Pike generates. But our expenses have been a little higher the last few years than you would, there are a lot of things going into
'Cause
that.
I'd rather see
I
it
wouldn't
come
be,
from
I
there
wouldn't be
because that's-
comfortable tying our donation to any particular other event. I think if we want to make a donation
I agree.
annual basis, we should figure out what that is
Right.
and make that.
We made a $10,000 donation a few years ago. I would
That was last
encourage us to make that a
It
regular
was not last year.
thing.
The
We
only-
could, if we wanted to, like I said, it's fungible. And we could pay our invoices to the Shaker Muni Court. Otherwise, we don't have to have this money to pay our invoices back to the Shaker Muni Court.
So I am curious because that would, and this might be something when you're talking about, you can get the numbers because, it says Shaker fines and all court costs. So the fines and court costs, two different things.
Yeah.
If I understand what you're saying, potentially, I mean, and again, this is just, this couple paragraphs in the report. The way I read it is these are the fines that come out to us. Court costs are a separate matter, but
Right.
But
you
we
know.
pay them for this, for the service of
right,
using
yeah,
them.
yeah.
But it doesn't, and it's a good, fair point for maybe when we go through our budget or the
Yeah.
finance committee. And that's separate from this. I know it's a
Right.
separate, taking us off for 1 second. But it would be nice to see the court expenditure and money coming in its own little box. It'd be nice to see that so we understand what's happening there. As to the point, the only caveat I have as to the food bank, which is, a very worthy thing. I think we all probably participate in that. I know the city did. But we might also want to look into, we have people in this community, I know you know this, Jackie. We think of ourselves as a very wealthy community, but not everybody in the community is wealthy, especially all the time. We have people on fixed incomes and people who are struggling at any given point in time, especially when we're doing, for example, something big like these sewer projects. And we might want to just take a beat and decide, I have no problem with helping people, giving money to the food bank, but we might want to also consider whether there are people in this community, for example, when we're doing these sewer projects, to ask them to foot the bill for that is a bigger lift than it would be maybe to you or me. I don't know. I just think we should brainstorm it and think of if there's something else that we're missing that before we jump ahead. But all worthy causes, obviously.
There are other worthy causes too. So I think we really need to, this is a bigger conversation, I think.
Yeah.
It is a large conversation. Since we are though, and I really appreciate Councilwoman Godek having brought up the issue of the annual food drive that our employees as well as our residents. And some on this council have also supported either privately or through their own donations to the food bank, I'm sure. We are not meeting our goals right now with the food bank. For some reason during COVID, we had some wonderful support that was generated from this community. And it doesn't take that much for anyone who receives our email solicitations. If everyone gave $10, we'd have, a lot of money from just the people who receive the emails. There'd be $30,000 or whatever right there. We're right now, and during COVID, it was interesting. I don't know if it was in 20 or 21, we raised something like $32,000. It was a lot of money.
But do we
Yeah.
track it? So here's the question. Do we only track it, the ones that go through our link?
We only see the things that go through our link.
Because you know what could be, and I don't know, I don't want to presume because I think it's a worthy cause. Once you give money to them, you get solicited from them. And I'm wondering if some of our
Like
community members.
50 times a year.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that's why
I'm wondering if some of our community members, I wonder if we could track it by address to see if, not just so we know, because I know I get solicited a lot. And when you do your donations, you sit there with the envelopes or whatever, so I'm
Right.
wondering if us doing a big push caused people to be on their list and now donate separately.
No, I don't think it's through that necessarily. Well, maybe it is. I'm
You know
not
what I'm
certain.
saying? I
I'm
don't
not
know.
We get a lot of, what I observe, because if people put their name in, you see in the rolling contribution list on the website, it's mostly frequent flyers that I recognize year to year who have showing up on that. And some people may, like I said in my comment initially, there may be people who are making generous donations outside of our virtual food
That's what
drive,
I'm
and very well. And that's why I set the goal, it's pretty modest, $10,000 right now. It's a very modest thing, because I recognize people may be contributing otherwise. And that's why I said, even a modest contribution by people would easily hit and exceed our goal. So it's obvious a lot of people, for whatever their personal reasons may be, are not making the contribution. I would like to encourage people to make the contribution because as the last posting I put out about it demonstrated, there are millions of pounds of food and hundreds of thousands of dollars that the federal and the state government are no longer going to be providing to support the food bank. And it's a crisis in this community and all across the United States. And I fully support the idea, if council would entertain it, of particularly this year, as we're in this season of giving and opening our door to the stranger, that we consider making a contribution in this time, at this moment, to support. Because next year may be a different scenario. It may be better, it may be worse. But this year, right now, there's a crisis being faced by a lot of people. And this city can just make, for what the city, from the city's standpoint, is a pretty modest contribution. And there are people in Pepper Pike, I want to say this, who benefit from the Cleveland Food Bank. There is not a community literally in Cuyahoga County, except maybe one that I know of, that do not have people who benefit from the Cleveland Food Bank. And so it is not simply sending the money down the road to people who we may have no contact with. It is obviously widely distributed. There are food kitchens in the city. The Garfield Church, I know, maintains a food kitchen for food distribution. And I would encourage council to consider, maybe to match what we did a few years ago when things were tough, maybe $10,000 that we could, get to the food bank or some other amount. If it's more, I'm not going to be standing on my hind legs protesting it. It could be more. And just something that I'd be very happy to entertain a conversation right now with council about if you'd like to do it.
I think with two of our members missing, we should wait until next time.
I fully support, doing that and more. I mean, part of what spurred this idea is I was at Heinen's, with my kid, and we're buying what we need, not a care in the world. And, they're having they have the little tags at the checkout right now, right? And so, pull one and, pass it through the scanner, and he's reading it. And it's like, the amount of meals they can get out of even a small donation. He could not wrap his head around how that's possible. And so then we started talking about, like the power of bulk purchasing and all, got into some economics lessons. But I think that this is such an incredibly, really just an easy lift, an easy way to make a really significant difference in people's lives in our community and the broader community. So I appreciate that you want to wait for people who aren't here, but I don't know that do you think Jim Remy is going to argue against it?
I don't think timing is critical here, so I think I would just be more comfortable if all of us were here.
And I would like to just make sure we're meeting needs of the community members. I mean, we've had people show up at meetings really upset about the expense. If you remember, it was a while back, the expense that was going to be put upon them by some of these sewer projects. And I don't know, I just think it's like we're turning our backs on our neighbors, maybe our immediate neighbors. So I just would like to have that conversation.
Exclusive.
What?
It's not mutually exclusive.
Well, we only have so much. I mean, plus I do have some hesitation about taking public money and us redistributing it. I believe very strongly in personally doing those kinds of things. I mean, very strongly, but
Can we
I
put it
just-
on the agenda for next
Yes,
meeting?
I
Great.
will. I will.
And
Okay.
what would be the just mechanics of something like that? Whether it's a food bank or whatever. If we decided to make a donation in some capacity, is that
We
just
will
a
deliver,
straightforward-
we'll deliver the funds to them. That's all.
That's
We'll-
it. It's
We'll
easy.
get it authorized, and I have some discretionary funds just in my budget. I
Mhm.
should contribute some of that to it. I don't want to, I'd like council to be part of this decision. I really would. I think it's a good representation for the city if, the elected officials in general
Yeah.
made this gesture. And so we'll put it on the agenda and we'll have that conversation next time.
Great.
Okay. There's nothing else. We'll turn to the audience. Mr. Rice.
Bob Rice, 2445 Edgewood Trace. So I went to the first two town halls, and then I couldn't make the one Saturday. And I'm a glutton for punishment, and I actually sat and watched the whole YouTube video, so learned a lot. So the whole discussion of the ability to answer questions with the town hall, kind of threw the lawyer under the bus, my impression at the last couple meetings, unnecessarily. And we talked before about the Charter Commission, how hard they worked and competed, and I agree with that. But the council has put the yes and no citizens against each other because they didn't properly debate it and have the town halls as requested by two of the council members prior to putting this on the ballot. If the town halls had been on the ballot before the ballot issue was decided, or if the council had done their job and properly debated all the heavyweight issues, the people on the yes side and the people on the no side would have all known what the council thinks. And we would have had a proper debate, and we would have had a ballot initiative that probably 80% of people could live with. So the failure to properly debate it is the real problem. It's not whether or not you can answer the questions at the town hall. The town hall, the cart's already up, the horse is already out of the barn. I think I and a couple other citizens predicted this in December when we talked, oh, we're not going to have town halls. We said, that's where you get the debate. So council president, let's pick one of the issues, adding of a council president to the council. Mr. Rinker, former mayor of Mayfield Village, former council president in Mayfield Village, gave very good critiques, advice, comments at two of the town halls regarding the process. And he's a big no, but he's also probably in favor of a council president position if it's limited to running the council instead of creeping into the administration. But we never debated it. I could probably be in support of a council president that's in charge of council, but doesn't creep into the administration. I don't even know what any of the council members think about a council president position. This is just one topic. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but that's where the problem is. Because you could have said, I'm in favor of council president, I'm not. And then let's debate it and figure it out. And then, okay, and you go down those 30 weight issues one by one. It would have taken 6 months of council meetings because, as Mr. Rinker pointed out, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed. And the charter needs to be updated. Village to city, councilman to council member, statute stuff. And you all know where I am. I got into this yes, no business because of the residency requirement, but it opened my eyes to some other things in my experience as a city manager on things that creep into the administration. So the problem is that we didn't debate it. And the yes people want it to go, the no people don't. But maybe there's a common ground, but we don't know what it is because we never properly debated it. It never got, so it's amazing. I've been to almost every council meeting since I moved here. And we had a couple council meetings in the fall that we talked about the trail and what trees, and we had a big debate on the chairs and the trees. I think we debated more about the chairs and the trees on the Great Gates Mills Trail than we actually did on the charter, which is the biggest thing to come before this city in many, many years. So that's the real issue that we find ourselves. The problem we find ourselves in is because the town halls kind of were meaningless, and you couldn't state your position, Ms. Wellman, because it wasn't going to change anything on the ballot anyway. So what's the difference? These should have all been debated with citizens. I don't know where any of you stand on any of the major issues, other than you're a yes or a no, or I kind of got an idea. But we didn't debate this. And these are big issues.
Thank you.
And if anyone wants to sign my
Not here in the middle of a meeting, sir, please. Is there anyone else?
Oh, I'd like to respond just real quick if I can.
Sure.
Mr. Rice, you weren't at one of the meetings where we did discuss the points, and I brought up issues, including the residency requirement, including
You
the
did support me on the
six
residency
out of this.
requirement.
It's not about supporting anybody, but we did have discussions about it. So you can't say that council did not discuss the issues. And we moved the 6 instead of 5 out of 7 council members for removal of the mayor. It was 6 out of 7. So I mean, we've done a lot of that. And then the vote to actually adopt the changes was voted on by all of the council members. The actual content of the charter revision. So we did discuss things, and you can't say that we didn't have proper discussions about it because we did. So, I mean.
I don't know,
those are-
Kathy. I asked about the planning commission and was told to read the minutes. So, I mean,
I mean,
I'm
I-
at fault too for not encouraging and demanding more dialogue, but I think that,
And I missed the
I think the
first
point is
meeting.
taken.
Yeah.
I would say,
But
and I don't want to advocate, but I find it a really interesting conversation that council members were chastised, I think wrongly, for being involved, because I don't think council members were involved.
I'm sorry, I thought we weren't going to open up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
we
right,
don't
all right,
debate.
let's return to what we're
We don't
actually
debate, and
in
we're
our
not gonna
meeting here,
respond
which is
to this.
audience
It's
comments.
ridiculous.
We're not going to turn this into a town hall, guys. This is a audience comment.
You're correct.
Thank you, Colonel, for your comments. Is there anyone else with a comment? Mr. Naft.
Andy Neff, 2632 South Center Road. I'm surprised at the colonel's comments in some ways in regards to, I went to 16 of the 17 meetings. Okay, I listened to the debate at those meetings. I listened to the 9 people who raised their hand out of 30 that said, I'm willing to dedicate 6 months, didn't know at that time how much time this would be, but dedicated 6 months to hear all the inputs. They went out in 5 or 6 different emails to the public. There was Pepper Pike Post notifications to the public, okay? There was a hand sent letter to every address in this city saying, we're debating this now. We're debating this now. Please come to our meetings. Please give us the information, that you have, towards the charter. Okay, I was there. I heard these 9 people go through every one of those points. I heard them go through the president of council, I think it was 40 times. 40 times they addressed that. They addressed your question, in regards to residency, 2 or 3 times themselves, okay? Unfortunately, you don't like the answer that they came up with. But there was a group of 9 people.
Mr., please direct your comments to the council, please, and not to another resident.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Okay, with that, okay, they addressed all of the questions that were asked. And with that, when Preston came up, at the beginning of every meeting, there was a time slot for a resident to make a comment. And there was always a time slot for a resident to put in questions on here. And they addressed those items. And with that, a lot of people unfortunately didn't like the answer. That doesn't mean it wasn't debated. It was debated and debated in full. And the person that chaired that committee, you're never going to find a person that's more qualified. He is a law director of Twinsburg. He has done 3 charter reviews, okay? He listened to everything that Steve Byron, as well as the other lawyers, the 4 or 5 other lawyers that were on that commission, had to say, and they adjusted things accordingly. The debate for this happened then. Yes, I would have liked to have seen this town hall meeting happen before that it went on the ballot. But it doesn't mean, okay, that this full debate about what's in there and what the substance is that's in there. And one of the things that I'm going to get to hopefully in a second is, the item of protection for whistleblowers in here, because I think we have a major problem with that right now. Okay, and with that, all of these things were debated. I heard Mr. Rinker talk very, very, lengthy and had points and stuff like that. He never came to a meeting. He never submitted anything to the commission. Why is it afterwards? Okay, and with that, the town hall meetings did happen. Okay, and with that, you have a choice on May 6th, or by mail-in ballot before that, you have a choice, yes or no. Yes or no, but know that 9 people spent. Hey.
I'm sorry.
Yes, okay, that is the point. They're not listening to what the people are saying. I stopped talking for 10 seconds, and they didn't even know, okay? So now let me go on to the item of, so that has been debated, and I know I would have liked to have more of this other debate, on there, but with that, it has been discussed, and people were aware of it. People were just too busy, okay, to get involved during that portion, of the time frame. So let's go back to some of the things that were talked about tonight in regards to, and please go to February 11th audio. I went to the audio of the council meeting on February 11th. And at that meeting, here's what happens, okay? At 1 hour and 4 minutes into the audio recording, a question was asked by Jim LeMay to the law director. And with that, the question was, did you review the mayor's January 31st, 2025 post on the city's website before it was posted? Rather than answer the question, the law director turns to the mayor and says, did I? And the mayor tells him, yes, you did. And then the law director responds, oh, I guess I must have reviewed it. The next council meeting, by the way, just so you know, okay, the mayor says, I went over this point by point by point by point with the law director. Okay, so what we have here, unfortunately, and it is addressed by the new charter, it's whistleblower protection. Okay, right now, I understand how difficult it must be for the law director who's hired and works for the mayor and at the pleasure of the mayor. And with that, so do the majority, well, so do everybody else that works for the city in regards to the police chief, the fire chief, the city engineer, the city planning, person. They report directly to the mayor and are hired by the director. And to the way the current charter is, they can be fired for no reason other than he's not satisfied with them and no one else has a word in it. The new charter has whistleblower protection. The new charter has somebody else in there that also then has to agree with his decision on there. So with that, for the first time, we have whistleblower protection. So that's one of the reasons why I'm voting for it. The other major reason that I'm voting for it is that I sat through all of those meetings. I listened to those very, very qualified people debate every one of those issues, okay, for 36 hours, okay? And with that, I'm going to respect their inputs, and I'm going to vote yes for the charter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Ms. Graham? Go ahead. No, Ms. Graham, I've called on you.
Okay, I have a question for you, Mr. Mayor. At the last council meeting, you stated that we do not have 3 branches of government.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
At last council meeting, you stated we did not have 3 branches of government.
Yes, ma'am.
What branches do we not have?
We do not have a judicial branch.
Although, by the current and proposed charter, you have the judicial powers assigned to you. So we
I
do have
understand
a
what's in the charter,
even though
but
we
we
don't
do.
have a mayor's court, you do have the judicial powers assigned to you. So you are in charge of the judicial branch. So we do have 3 branches. We just don't technically use one, but you have those powers, correct?
We do not have a functioning
Do
judicial
you
branch,
have the
no.
judicial powers assigned to you in the charter?
I'd have to read the charter, but it does mention,
Mr. Byron,
it mentions
does he
a
have the
municipal
judicial
court
powers in the
that
charter?
is not.
There is no mayor's court in Pepper Pike.
I didn't ask that. I said, does he have the judicial
In
powers?
the absence of
assigned
a
to him?
mayor's court, he doesn't have the judicial powers that exist under state law. There is no judiciary in Pepper Pike.
But isn't it in the charter that he has the judicial powers?
If there were a mayor's court, he would
So
exercise the
they are
powers.
assigned to him. That's my point.
Okay, good point.
So we do have 3, we just don't use one. And this is my other point. Mayor Bain, you say you are a strong executive for the city of Pepper Pike. At last Tuesday's town hall meeting, you took charge of the meeting, laying the ground rules, and then proceeded to sit back and let the meeting devolve into chaos. Multiple residents on the say no side disrespected council, and you did nothing. You let the residents talk over and disrespect the members of council. So my question is, are you a mayor for all the residents of Pepper Pike or for only those residents who support your agenda?
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else? Mr. Savage.
Gerard Bartasavage, 29600 Shaker Boulevard. There was limited information given to the residents for this charter change. Unlike walkability, there was surveys, a lot of conversation. And so I don't know how anyone can say there's a lot of information out there. There was only about a dozen people that showed up at those meetings. I think there was maybe even 4 council members that didn't show up for the meetings. And, we got almost 6,000 registered voters in the city of Pepper Pike. So what I'm really disappointed in is when we review the meeting minutes, there was mention of town hall meetings. Right? Council should have, it was mentioned in the meeting minutes that there were supposed to be town hall meetings. There wasn't. So I'm very disappointed in council not pushing for town hall meetings, so residents can be informed and you could have that discussion. During the first vote, as Jackie mentioned, she said she didn't have a chance to read it, right?
Oh, no, I didn't read the minutes because I was
Okay, you
anticipating
didn't
that
have the chance to
conversation.
read the minutes. Okay, so that was right before the vote, right? Is that what you said?
I don't remember if a vote was at that same meeting.
Okay, but anyway, Dr. Wang said prior to the vote, she said, well, isn't there gonna be a discussion? We sat here, the residents sat here, it was on video. And I think it was, Mr. Wellman or LeMay said, no, the document speaks for itself. If you go back to the video, you'll see it. We didn't hear any discussion about it. So, I mean, that was totally wrong on council's part. There was a lot of discussion about walkability at council meetings, and actually, I think it was kind of funny. There was more discussion about a park bench than there was about the charter repeal. I think that's very wrong. But I want to commend Councilmember Scott Newell for mentioning at the town hall meeting, as most residents wanted this to be on the November ballot and not pushed. I've asked numerous times, what's the reason? What's the compelling reason to get this on the May ballot? And none of you have given the residents any good reason why this has to be on the May ballot. Ms. Godek also feels the same way. So as you can see, you saw through the three readings, residents' input, all three readings, residents came here to give your input. You've seen a lot of confusion at the town hall meetings. I mean, that was total confusion. People are not informed what's going on. People are asking questions. It was not good. And I know a lot of residents in Pepper Pike, and I've been meeting them, talking to them, and they're confused. They have no clue what's going on. And as you can see, a lot of the signs out there, you can see that people aren't happy with council. So if you can compare this to sidewalks, sometimes you want to compare this to sidewalks when you feel like it. And then when you don't, you say, oh, you can't compare this to sidewalks. Well, I'm going to tell you, residents are very disappointed in council's actions. And that's all I got to say. I hope you guys can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burris. Ms. Gaskin.
Jean Gascoigne, 30496 West Landerwood. Well, first of all, once again, at these meetings here, the big ones, it bothers me, the smirking, the voices under somebody's breath, and the civility of people in the audience. It bothers me. The food bank, I volunteer a lot. If you've never been there, when the residents or the customers, they call them the customers or clients, when they get a shopping cart and they're allowed with volunteer to just go through the whole, I mean, it's a huge, if you haven't been there, volunteer, they get to pick out anything and everything. And it is so important to me, the greater food, the food bank. However, I think that I believe that maybe other places might be investigated for a donation. I think it's sort of getting like murky here. I know that there's is it the Orange, the emergency fund for people in our city who just need a temporary, little temporary help, whatever it's called.
Well, I chair that. You can't, I'm never going to recommend council make a donation to the committee that I chair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I appreciate you bringing us up.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. But I mean, I don't know if I don't want to get into a whole big, who we could donate to. for me, I'd say the Sisters of Notre Dame, but the food bank, I'm curious and interested to see the conversation on that. And then as far as anything else, I pass.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. You know, Ms. Barber.
Grace Barber, 33,000 Shaker Boulevard. I keep hearing this confusion from the residents, and I happened to stumble upon what went out for the walkability pamphlet, and it was council working together with the mayor to put something out for our residents. That did not happen, and it's unfortunate that only the mayor's information was put out there, misleading what I feel is the residents and leading to the confusion. There's question and answers that they were able to put it out together. I'm not sure why the law director did not allow something like that to go out for our residents. It's unfair, and I feel like council's being thrown under the bus when the mayor does have a hand in it. You're our leader, and you should have worked together like you did with this walkability pamphlet. It's very disappointing that only one side is heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
If there's nothing else this evening, we are adjourned.
Oh, next Thursday is the Civic League State of the City by Mayor Bain and the Scholarship